Hey, welcome everybody to the Agent Unleashed. And I am super excited to be interviewing and talking to Fred Carmean from Chicago. And thanks so much for joining us, Fred. I'm going to do a quick little introduction. So basically, Fred works Chicago and the adjacent suburbs and the North Shore. He began real estate about the same time I did in the mid 1990s, 96, I think, after a home building and sales management and marketing career. And he's with the at Properties, Christie's International Real Estate. He's been a real estate agent. Well, you've been doing real estate, or you've been at there since 2007, and his sales have exceeded 175 million. So you're going to have to correct me, Fred.
I've been with I'm with App Properties, and I've been there since 2007. I started my career with Coldwell Banker.
Oh, got it. So nearly all of his business, I want to talk to Fred about his business because he's one of the top producers in Chicago, and most of his business comes from referrals. And his philosophy has always been clients are for life, not a transaction. And as a result, clients often engage in services multiple times. And he grew up in Northwest Ohio. We're not that far away from where I grew up in Detroit. Graduated from Miami University in Ohio. And as you mentioned, Chicago's been his home since 1987, and he loves traveling, the outdoors, sailing, music, and architecture. Fred, welcome. Thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
Thanks for having me. And,
absolutely.
Happy to be here.
So I have so many questions for you, Fred, but the first question I have for you is, how did you and I meet? Do you remember?
I'll be damned if I know.
I've known you for so long, and you and I have been talking for so long, and I just can't remember. Was it through a seminar, maybe like a sales seminar?
It may have been through a seminar. Did you go to any Buffini seminars at all?
No, I never did a Buffini. I never did a Buffini. Mike Ferry?
No.
Oh, well, this is a mystery. Well, I'll have to figure out how I met you. I've been talking to you since like the Stone Age.
I know, from a long time ago.
I love it. And you'll notice that Fred is in his car because as a listing agent, one of the top listing agents in Chicago, he just is closing on one, doing a walkthrough. So he's gonna ditch us any moment. So I'm gonna start asking you some questions, and Fred, feel free to bolt at any time.
By the way, this walkthrough is it's a condo, and it's the second transaction I've done with this woman who just went into a retirement home. And when to your comment about my business is primarily referrals, I just 2 weeks ago closed with somebody, and I helped them buy their first house for first condo for $90,000.
Wow.
I've had 5 transactions with them. We just closed a $3.5 million house.
Wow, that's amazing. So stay in touch with your SOI, your sphere of influence. That's for sure. Tell me firstly, what inspired you to get into real estate?
I was in building materials. I sold. If you sell single family houses, you're familiar with a product called Velux or Velux. It's pronounced differently in different places in the country. But anyhow, I was a sales manager for Velux. And then I traveled constantly, and I really felt like I didn't have a life here in Chicago. And consequently, when I was looking at a new career, I went back to my old Myers-Briggs, and real estate was always at the top of my profile. So I said, hey, and I talked to several people in real estate and said, self-employed, that appeals to me. Home base in Chicago, I can be here and work. And so that's what I did. So
you're such a personable guy, and you're so smart at doing this. No wonder you're so successful, and you've made the right choice, I guess.
Yep, I'm still at it. I've been at it since 94. And here I am in many years later, and
I love it.
Still working.
I love it.
Past retirement age, but still working.
Well, you and I were just talking about before we went live that both of us are of a certain age. And it's sort of like real estate, such a great profession because you can do this forever. And as long as, I think the key is, as long as you keep having fun, why not? Why would you stop doing it?
Yep,
You know, I
exactly.
love that. So tell me this. So you're talking to a bunch of listing agents right now. What are you doing to get listings? And I know you're basically referrals. So number one, I guess I have two-part question. One is, have you tried anything other than just doing referral-based SOI? Number one. And number two, what are you doing to nurture, if you will, your sphere of influence?
Okay. Um, First of all, I really don't do very much outside of my sphere of influence.
Okay.
Almost all of uh, I just don't. I personally find leads that you purchase through, or they're not high quality leads,
I
and
agree.
especially in the new environment where our commissions are, when buyer and selling commissions are being separated, and
Hmm.
with the new, with the DOJ stuff going on,
Hmm.
and the settlement, I think it's even more critical to be able to work with people that you have a foot in the door, they already know and trust you, and you don't have to establish that. I've just generally
Hmm.
found that the people that are online leads, they are not loyal. They're talking to everybody.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
they could, and it becomes a race to the bottom in terms of the rate you charge.
Yeah, and I'll take
So
that one step further. And because of the new rules, I think it's incumbent upon us to be more of a listing agent than working with buyers, because of the buyer paid commission structure and all that.
right.
Um, so that's a really
So
good point. So what are you
so
doing to nurture those people?
okay. Well, I'll give you an example. Next Wednesday, I
Mhm.
am a lender that I work with. We have several good people that consistently refer us business, and so we have invited some people to a cooking class at an event space cooking school,
What
and
a great idea.
they are doing Thai, um, learning to cook Thai.
Hmm.
It's so it's a There are only a dozen people. We want to keep it relatively small, so it's a dozen people that are there,
I
and
love it.
so it's face to face and 3 hours face to face. So
Hmm.
so I have always done events. Those of you that are from know Chicago, of course, we are on a lakefront that you wouldn't know is a lakefront. It's might as well be the ocean. And there's a sailing ship downtown, and another agent who I don't compete with, and um, we hired the sailing ship 3 different times,
Mm.
and it has passengers, and we spent
Hmm.
about we each had 75 people, 75 guests, and had it catered, and it was about $3,000 a piece, $3,500 a piece for us to do this. So,
Wow.
so it was a night out on sailing out on Lake Michigan, with so I find that getting my sphere in a situation where I can spend time with them and have fun uh,
Hmm.
is um, is is beneficial.
That's a great idea, and I think that sort of emphasizes to me too is just being creative in terms of how you reach out to your SOI in your sphere. That's a great idea with the boat and the party, and especially the cooking classes. I've
Yeah.
never done either of those two things, and that's a great. I have to put that to good use myself. How are
Oh,
with
but
your SOI?
let me go on. I'll go on. Aside from events, in
Okay.
general, my sphere of influence, I do a monthly postcard mailing. It dovetails,
Mm,
which you get.
yes.
It dovetails into a company video or an e-blast. Um, I have not yet gotten into videos. I need to, but um, but for the most part, I am consistent with monthly mailings and um, monthly e-blasts,
Yep.
as well as seasonal e-blasts, and then trying to make 50 calls a week.
Hmm.
Um, so 10 contacts a day, and
Mm-hmm.
I always send personal notes. So I consistently do 2 personal notes a day.
I love that. I mean, I wish that I could talk to real estate agents into doing that, because personal notes, nobody really does that. And nowadays, when you get a handwritten note, it's like, wow, sort of like in your face, and people really remember you.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about handwritten notes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gentleman down the street from where I live in the northwest side of Chicago, a really nice fellow who has a restaurant. It's a Middle Eastern, it's a falafel shop, and I go there about once a week. And during COVID, when he when we, like you in San Francisco, we were totally shut down for a while,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and he was shut down, and he devised some ways to supplement income and do carry out and a lot of other things. But I sent him a note, and just last week sent him a note saying, I was wishing him well, was thinking about him, and just the other week. Now this is 4 years ago that I sent him this note. Just the other week, I stopped by and he goes, he says, I want to tell you. He said, I still have that note that you sent me. And
Wow.
he said, it just warms the heart. And so it just reminds me
Mm-hmm.
how it took me 2 seconds to write the note.
Mm-hmm.
And he's referred me business. I could have worked with him, but he wants to buy in an area I don't serve at all. But
Mm-hmm.
so I was able to refer him to somebody. But yeah, it touched me when I realized that note, he still has the note.
Wow, that's amazing. I have a similar story where I did a hand note and stayed in touch with a woman, and she never returned any of my calls or emails. And after 10 years, she called me to list her condo for sale, and she remembered that note as well. And I said, "How come you never called me back?" And she said, "Well, I just knew you were there." So she
Yeah.
never returned any of my calls. So you're doing all the right things with your SOI. Is there anything else that you're doing?
That's pretty much it. And I fall like everybody else. I fall off the wagon
Hmm.
on all those things. But you
Do
just
you
have
have a
to.
good CRM that you're using?
Um, I do. We, as a company, have a at properties, and I don't know if anybody in your group is from Christie's at all. Any Christie's
Hmm.
people there? But
I don't know. I don't know.
but at properties actually owns Christie's now. They bought
Oh,
it from
wow.
Christie's auction house, and they've developed something they call platform, and
Hmm.
spelled with an A, like our at
Hmm.
property sign.
Hmm.
But and a lot of our affiliates use it. But it's a
Hmm.
CRM that integrates contact management, as
Hmm.
well as all of our e-blasts, as well as um, all of our um, just kind of keeping in touch with people.
Right,
So
right.
it's really robust. It also handles when I get a listing, I
Hmm.
scan everything up to the same thing, and so it is all just a one-stop shop. So
That's great.
it's a very good CRM. Our company decided about 5 years ago that in lieu of doing something off the shelf that had a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't necessary,
Hmm.
they would just hire their own developers, and they did. Uh,
Hmm.
and and now and it's built specifically for real estate.
That's great. That's great. And you do all the right things. I mean, I'm on your mailing list, and I know for a fact I'm living proof that I'm always hearing from Fred. I always get an email or postcard or a call or whatever. How do you manage your time effectively? I mean, you do a lot. What's your secret?
It's I have to say I don't have a secret. It's very hard in our market. We
Mhm.
are not a lockbox market.
Yeah,
So
like us.
we show all of our own listings, unless it's a
Mhm.
dump and vacant and overpriced and vacant and we're tired of it. Uh, but but for the most part, we show all of our own listings. So
I see.
so it's tough. But I do a lot of this. I do a lot of, hey, you know, I had planned on being in, I had planned on being in my office to talk to you all, but instead I'm in the car, and it's just, you know, you catch as catch can. You just don't waste time.
Right. Right. So let me ask you a question. Be honest. I'm pretending like it's just you and me.
Okay. Well, I can't see anybody else here, so I don't. So it
Yeah,
is just you and
exactly.
me.
There you go. What would you say, because you're one of the most successful real estate agents that I know, what would you say is your biggest strength and maybe your biggest weakness in terms of the business?
Well, first of all, I would not say I'm not. I'm not wildly successful in terms of volume. So I'm not like
Uh-huh.
the top real estate agent in Chicago. But I am a
Uh-huh.
consistent producer that makes a living, and I have money in the bank. And
Hmm.
um, so, my biggest strengths, I think, are when it comes to working with sellers. My biggest strength is being authentic and honest and straightforward.
I love that.
I learned, especially during the downturn, when you were telling people that they had lost 25% of the value of their property, that
Hmm.
that yeah, BSing people doesn't work.
Hmm.
Telling them what they want to hear does not work. Um,
Hmm.
so you don't get the listing by telling them what they don't want to hear. So did you really want that listing in the first place?
Right. Right.
So I'm straightforward and honest. I'm not a showman. Um, I'm not a flashy dresser. I don't try and impress people driving around in a $120,000 Range Rover. I just
Hmm.
have I and you know I have a paid for 4-year-old car that is you
Hmm.
know, a middle of the road car.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
so I just have to say that I think my farm background and my solidly middle class background is probably my biggest asset.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind, and I talk about this with my coaching clients all the time, Fred. You are the epitome and embodiment of just authenticity. And I think you just come across as such an honest guy, such a likable, gregarious kind of guy. And I say this all the time. Sellers' bullshit meters are so finely tuned right now. I totally agree with you that they can see the BS. They can see through all that kind of flashy, the glamour shots, the Mercedes and all the other kinds of BS, because they really don't care. Especially they don't need that kind of BS meter. And then like you said before, if you find people that are like that and they want to hear that and they're going to believe all those the bullshitters, then do you want to have those people as clients anyways?
Nope.
Yeah, I was just on the phone with my business partner Terry, and right before this call, and we just lost a $2 million listing that it was a dump in San Francisco, an absolute dump. It was, believe it or not, a TIC, so it wasn't even the whole building; it was half a building, needed tons of work, and they found a real estate agent that listed it for $2.7 million. And I'm like, you got to be smoking something to
Yep.
list that. And they just wanted to hear it. They just wanted it. So, Terry was lamenting the fact that we lost this listing. And I'm like, hey, it's a dump. We don't need people like that.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a loss.
Yeah, exactly. Save us a lot of time. Let's work with people, like you said earlier, the people that really value our time and our opinion and everything else.
Exactly.
So, your biggest weakness?
Oh, um, hang on just a second.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. Um, should be.
Do
Parking
you
meter.
need to bolt?
No, I'm just looking. Yeah, I'm okay. Parking meter guy. Um,
Uh-huh. I
so just
love it.
making sure that I still had time on the meter. Um,
Uh-huh.
so no, I'm good. I have another 10 minutes.
Okay, good. Biggest week. Oh, and I just want to say one other thing too that you said that I just really want to underscore, which you are the king of, and that is consistency. As everybody knows, the money's in the consistency, and I thought you were going to lead with that because you're such a consistent guy in everything that you do, and I think that's one of the reasons you're so successful. But
So my biggest weakness, I think, is um, I tend to stay up at night. Sometimes I tend to take my business too personally, and
mm,
and don't fall back on, hey, the market's talking to us, as opposed to you know um, yeah. I mean, I think one of my biggest weaknesses is I worry too intimately about a transaction. Uh,
mm.
and so I think that's a weakness. So I spend a lot of time and energy on things I can't control.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, that's a tough one. I had a mentor that once told me that it's really important to keep your emotions in between the lines and don't get too excited when you get a big commission check or don't get too upset when a deal goes south or whatever. So
that's
I think
it's
that's a real
good.
hard thing for all of us.
It is. It's good advice, but it's you know, it's a hard thing. So
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me this, what would be like the most unusual or bizarre property that you've ever sold in Chicago?
oh wow,
One that's funny or unusual or
you got me at a loss there. I don't. I
well,
I
I'll tell you what. While you're thinking, if you can think of anything, I'll tell you one of mine. I don't know if I've ever told anybody this. I actually sold a property, a house in San Francisco that had a sex dungeon in the basement, and I couldn't figure out. And they thought it was like a real big selling point, and I'm like, I don't think I have a category in the MLS for this.
exactly. Yeah, I had a colleague that had a similar situation. They had
Uh,
there was a cage in the bedroom, and I won't say anything up more, but yeah, but no, I can't say I've had really any really incredibly
uh-huh,
unusual ones. Um,
uh-huh.
I did recently have a sale that happened, um, and I found out that it was in an old loft building, and
Hmm.
it was in an area that's gentrifying, but this place was like literally between railroad. It was an old factory between railroad tracks,
Oh
and
wow.
it was a cool live work space. My clients had used it for years as a commercial office, and they decided that they um, wanted to redo it. What I
Hmm.
found out after the fact is they redid it, and we finally sold it, but the building was a disaster. And what I found out was that they hadn't used it to live in for years and years and years. It had been vacant for years. And the reason that they finally were renovating it to sell it is because there was a big leak in the roof, and they had sued the building, and the proceeds from the suit was allowing
Hmm.
them to renovate the property. So
Wow.
the only thing that what was weird about it was and difficult about it was because they had sued the building,
Hmm.
everybody I ran into in the building and the management hated their guts and consequently hated my guts and
Oh man.
tried to make the sale as difficult as they possibly could. Whereas
Uh,
whereas it would have been a whole lot better if they made it as easy as possible to get those people out the door. But
yeah,
I
that's
can't say I've
amazing.
had any really strange, unusual properties.
Right. Well, Fred, you're not trying hard enough.
I I like I like straightforward,
Yeah,
well renovated,
exactly.
nicely done properties, like everybody
Exactly.
else.
Exactly. So, Fred, what advice, if you were to meet somebody that came up to you and said, young kid that said to you, okay, I want to go into real estate. What would be the one biggest first thing that comes to your mind piece of advice that you would give to somebody that wants to get into the real estate game?
I'd say the first thing that comes to mind is don't sell real estate because you quote like houses. You know, there's so many people that get into this business, and and because they like real estate. What they don't appreciate and they don't realize, and every state is different, but what they don't realize is how much legal stuff we have to do, how much schlepping around we have to do, how much, um, you know, how much we have to do, like where you just have to dig in. For example,
Mm-hmm.
storage locker in a building. The
Mm-hmm.
people left shit in there.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing the walkthrough the day before the closing. And yes, it could be a big deal with the walkthrough. Sometimes you just have to roll up your sleeves and haul the stuff to the dumpster.
Right,
And
right.
nobody ever told me that stuff was in my job description.
Mm-hmm.
So I think um, you know, one of the things is about real estate is there really is no job description. There are a lot of things you just have to do to get the job done.
Right,
And you
right,
may not like it, but at some point you just have to just roll up the sleeves and do it.
right.
I think the other thing that I would tell a new person is two other things I would tell a new person in real estate, and that is it takes a lot more hours than you think it does. Being self-employed is you can try and plan your day, you can try and plan everything. It doesn't work that way all the time. It's going to take a lot more hours to do than you think it's going to take.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? What else would I say?
Because I think you really do have to sort of like have a passion for it to get the job done, no matter what it takes. And I think
Yeah,
that's
I
what
think you
you're
have to have a
saying. Yeah.
passion for people and not necessarily real estate. You have to have a
There you
passion.
go.
You have to have a passion for working with working with people. The third thing I would say is don't bend to all the people that are trying to get it in your pocket for. I mean, how many times, how many calls do you get a day from somebody, typically with an accent that's a call center somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
who's trying to give you quote leads?
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, I'm not paying for referrals, and it's like, um, it's like, well, this is we're not a referral source. Yes, you are. You know, so it's
Mm-hmm.
like, so it's like there's
Yep.
always somebody looking to pick your pocket. You know, the basics always work.
Exactly. The shiny object syndrome. Don't succumb to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like uh, like our managing broker said, or the owner of our company says, he says, look, real estate's a contact sport. You have to
Mm-hmm.
you have to be making contact.
Belly to belly marketing always works best.
Yep,
I love it.
exactly.
I love it.
So
God, that's amazing. Fred, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Thank you so much. How can people reach you? What's the best way for people to reach you?
best
And
way to reach.
I'll make sure I put all your contact information in the show
Yeah,
notes.
and I'd like to hear from the people that are out there too,
Okay.
who they're with, and but 312-804-4696 is my cell phone. Um,
Okay.
and you can reach me at fredcarmean.com. That's well, actually, the better thing is my email, and that's fred at fred carmean.com. So it's just my name, fred at fredcarmean.com.
Excellent.
Which
Excellent. And
is
I'll put all that information
which is
too.
another thing that a mentor of mine suggested. If you can get away with it in your company, make sure that you brand yourself and have contacts that are not the company's email,
Yes. Hmm.
because they can shut it off whenever they want to. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
Whereas people will, if they have your other email. But the other thing is, our company, just an FYI, I don't know if it's true everywhere, but our company will not let us. They will let us use an email like mine, fred@fredcarmean.com, when you have your own domain. They will not let us use a Gmail account or a Yahoo account or any account for our emails,
Mm.
because our errors and omissions does not cover us. So if somebody
Interesting.
if somebody ends up hacking us and earnest money goes away because of that, not
Interesting.
anybody's responsibility except yours.
Wow. That's a
So,
good tip.
yeah.
Didn't even
So
think about that.
anyhow,
That's
but
amazing.
everybody reach out if you'd like, and happy to chat.
Fred, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you reaching out to me. And
All right, Fred. We'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.